Branch Oceanographic Institute, just very close to where we're seated today. Some of you were at the kickoff celebration where we proclaimed the fact that what has been a long-time partnership between Florida Atlantic University and HBOI was moving from partnership to full-blown marriage. And now, as we enjoy everything that has happened at HBOI for so long and make it a full-fledged part of what we're doing in our research endeavors at Florida Atlantic University, not only will our Port St. Lucie campus continue to grow and expand with a brand new building that's under construction there today, which will virtually double our capacity, but also now with the growth that we're going to see, not only in terms of facilities, but more importantly, scientific endeavor and educational programs on the campus of Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute. To say that Florida Atlantic University is not only moving in a big way into this area, as well it should, but also growing its activities and becoming more a pronounced partner in what happens in our entire area, but again, specifically right here in this part of our service district, is an understatement, and we're delighted with that fact. I wanted to take the opportunity, and you always go out on a limb when you do this, but I'm padding my bets a little bit because I know some of these folks already are. But I'd like to ask anybody in the room who has acquired a degree from Florida Atlantic University to please raise their hand and hold it up so that we can see you. That gives you some idea not only of the numbers that you see in our local communities, but the prominence of some of the people who hold those degrees. Me aside, because I do hold a degree from Florida Atlantic University. The remainder are very prominent and influential people who are leaving an indelible stamp on their communities. Jerry McPherson, who is our VP, our Vice President for our northern campuses, and oversees everything that we do, and I probably think you would agree with me, is one of the finest ambassadors Florida Atlantic University has anywhere within our region. Does an amazing job with her folks of listening to the community, trying to identify needs, and then working with the university to see if we can plug in and fulfill those needs. I'm also pleased that we do have Shirley Pomponi with us today. Shirley has done for years an amazing job, both as a scientist and then thrust into the role of administrator at HBOI. She has helped us to navigate this huge translation and transfer to the new organizational structure that we're going to enjoy in the future. She's done it with a great deal of distinction and certainly professionalism, and she's going to be a major part of the growing scientific reach of Florida Atlantic University through Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute. So you know, as locally elected officials, that partnership will not only encompass graduate work, but ultimately will touch the lives of students in undergraduate as well as the K through 12 system. We already have some bold plans to create and expand some existing pre-K through 12 programs on the campus of HBOI. We believe that if you can get them early and ground them in the importance and truly the joy of math and science and technology, you can create something very special for the future. And it's always been our belief that reaching out to all education systems and partnering, we can create something enormously special in that regard. We are also, of course, as you've noticed on the video, and some of you firsthand, playing football at Florida Atlantic University these days. We have 18 NCAA sports, men and women's, at Florida Atlantic University, and we are incredibly competitive in many of them on a national scale. But of course, one of the things that's taken us to a new level in terms of visibility is our success on the gridiron. After only 7 years of playing football at Florida Atlantic University, and only in our third year of Division I football, we set an NCAA record by becoming the fastest startup program in history to move from startup to bowl game, as we not only won the Sun Belt Conference, a very competitive first, number one. I'll also point out to any degree holders from any other Florida universities, because you don't get this chance often, we were the only Florida team to win a bowl game in the state this year, and I have proudly proclaimed us state champs as a result of that. I'm not sure Vegas would have bet that line 6 months ago, but that's what happened. And so we're going to hold up the honor of the great Sunshine State in intercollegiate football play. And we went on to win the New Orleans Bowl, and it was an incredible accomplishment. As a matter of fact, Coach Schnellenberger and I are going to be up here. I think you all received an invitation, and hope you get to take us up on it. We're going to be up here to talk about the university and to talk about, with Coach Schnellenberger, football and some of our plans for growth and development. As most of you know, we will be playing in our football stadium in Boca Raton in the fall of 2010 and have a permanent home for the Fight Now. So we're always delighted when you join us, and some of you have been able to do that. We hope you'll keep coming to our football games and everything else that we do as a university. I want to just make a couple of other comments, and then I'm going to give away the podium to a local resident and somebody who also is an ardent football fan of Florida Atlantic University, and we'll get to him in just a moment. But also recognize that this year we were engaged in truly an unprecedented opportunity in two ways for our university. Many of you perhaps had a chance to watch the nationally televised presidential debates that we hosted at Florida Atlantic University just several weeks ago on MSNBC. It gave us two opportunities. One, truly to elevate the name and reputation of our university in being provided a national stage on which to perform. And by most accounts, we did so in a way that makes everybody proud. But second, it gave our university and those associated with it a chance, unprecedented, to step into the national arena, the civic dialogue, to ultimately determine, in some small way on our part, who will be the leader of the free world for years to come. 10 days of engagement opportunities for students and faculty, community members to come together and take advantage of what some suggest in some circles are once-in-a-lifetime opportunities to be prominently displayed, but truly give your students a chance to see you practice what you preach. And the reaction of our students and their participation, our faculty and our community at large, was nothing short of overwhelming. And I have said it, I'll say it again, I don't think FAU and our great folks could have done better than we did with those nationally televised debates. And again, it gave us a chance to take the name of Florida Atlantic University, still a baby in the world of higher education, to even a higher height. We're also very proud of our growing lifelong learning program in this part of the state. So you know, for context, Florida Atlantic University has almost 27,000 traditional students. We also have another 17,000 non-traditional students. These are men and women throughout our service district who sign up to be a part of our Lifelong Learning Society. And they take coursework from our professors and other experts that we bring into the classroom. The beauty, as they will tell you, many of them senior citizens, is they get to take coursework with no tests and no grades. It is the envy of my freshman class, I will tell you. But they have the same professors, the same curriculum, the same organizational setup as do my freshmen, my sophomores, juniors, and seniors. It's a marvelous program. 17,000 students took part in that last year. 27,000 when you count those who took more than one class. And recently, under the leadership of Jerry McPherson and her staff, we've expanded our operation not only to the Treasure Coast, but we have had the wonderful opportunity to be housed in part at the Vero Museum of Art. A great partnership that they love because it brings more people into the museum, and we love because it provides a beautiful home for lifelong learning courses. And I think for you to know, that's just one more great way that we can all work together in our communities to provide something special for all of our citizens. I'm delighted to be here, but I most importantly wanted to now give away the podium to Bill Penny. As you probably know, Bill is VP of Marine Bank. He is a local, he is an alum, and he is truly a diehard supporter of Florida Atlantic University. He recognizes what I do, that the degree I took away from the university has provided me opportunities that I never would have had or enjoyed, both personally and professionally, had it not been for FAU. As I give away the podium to each of you, I thank you for your service to the community. It is the Lord's work that you do. I'm not sure, having held a few elected positions, that county commissioner is one I coveted. It is arguably the toughest job in all of politics and public public service in any state. You are where the rubber meets the road. Most of us are where rubber meets the sky. I want to thank you for your service to everyone in this part of not only Indian River County, but the state of Florida. And you remain great partners with us at FAU. And we know we can call on you when we need you for other partnership opportunities for the people of Indian River County. Thank you again. And I'd like to now invite to the podium my buddy Bill Penny, who will talk to you a little more about the university.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, President Brogan. As he said, I'm Bill Penny, a longtime resident of Vero Beach. I'm class of 78 at FAU. Let me just tell you a little history there. When I went to class in 1978, we parked on a long parking lot that was a runway because this was a training base in World War II, and our mascot was the burrowing owl. There was these cute little fellas, and they dug a hole, and then they actually lived in the dirt and the Florida sand right next to the runway as we're walking to class. But then we got football, so we had to get the fighting owls. So now we look a little bit tougher because I guess the burrowing owls don't really scare anybody. I just want to say, while at FAU, I had a great education. I had some very experienced professors. For example, my marketing professor worked on Madison Avenue. Finance professor I had, he worked on Wall Street. So these guys had great credibility, and I learned a lot of real-world experiences with that. The education then that I received at FAU allowed me to go on and have a so far pretty good career in my chosen field of banking. I'm real proud of that. And then even more proud of that, my career has allowed me to give back to the community and to form a lot of the various community service activities that I do. So, it all started with a great education. A lot has changed since I graduated at FAU in 1978. They have actually followed me up the coast. I'm a West Palm native, and I moved up, and y'all followed me up, and I appreciate that. And now there's an opportunity for the three Penny kids to go on and go to FAU in Port St. Lucie and also become fighting owls, not burrowing owls anymore. So thank you very much for your time.
Oh.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, once again, thank you, and members of the Commission for your time this morning. We know you have a very full agenda, but to give us the opportunity just to be here and reintroduce everyone to Florida Atlantic University. And with that, if you all have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I don't have a question, but just want to remind everybody that you have a long history with Indian River County. I believe, if my mind is, in tune this morning, that you helped dedicate the Sebastian High School years ago, and also the first charter school. You were our speaker, and both are doing fine.
Glad to hear that.
Yes,
I really appreciate my relationship with Indian River County. It has been long as school superintendent when I was in Martin, working with your school district folks, and then as Secretary of Education and Lieutenant Governor. I've always enjoyed my affiliation with this beautiful part of the state.
And you did an outstanding job, beyond outstanding, for the presidential debates. I was able to attend, and it was the most organized, with your whole campus, and all your students participated. And your leadership has been outstanding, and we're delighted to partner with you anytime we need to, and you need us to.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank
you all again this
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I have had the opportunity to take some classes at FAU, and it certainly is a tremendous opportunity to be able to commute, because it is a commutable distance. Of course, now we have the University of Florida also. I had to put in that.
Oh, he's the Gator.
But
did they win their bowl game?
No, and I was there. That was a miserable New Year's Day, by the way.
They did play, didn't they?
But it was. I had an organic chemistry class that I'll never forget, and I'll try to, and some business classes. And it's a wonderful campus and a tremendous asset to the community. And thank you very much.
Thank you,
Madam Chair. If I might add too, I've had the pleasure of attending several events. Jerry McPherson's always been keeping me in the loop, and I was at the wedding ceremony down there at Harbor Branch, and I'm not quite the father, the bride, or groom, but I do have connections to both. I spent a couple years working in Harbor Branch, and my wife is an alumni of FAU, so I was kind of a distant cousin to the parties in the wedding. And I was very pleased to see that relationship move forward, to keep both institutions going strong. I serve on our Economic Development Council, and I can't reiterate how important it is for our economic development here to have quality education and training and opportunities. And I think with FAU and the other community colleges we have and all of the educational support we're getting, but certainly FAU, its strong presence just really, opens up a world of opportunities for this area for some real good, high-tech, good-paying jobs. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and keep up the good work. And I was at the opening game of last year against Middle Tennessee, and I'm sure it's our rooting that sent them on to the whole winning season there. So
well, by the way, Commissioner, this year our opening game is a little tougher. We go out to Texas to take on the University of Texas in Austin for our opening game this year. So we'd love to have you make the
road trip.
Road trip.
Well, I think a majority of us were there, so maybe we have to consider.
I will take all the luck I can get. So if it worked once, come on back. Right. I also didn't take the chance, and I should have. To comment on our relationship with our community college system. It is one of the largest relationships in the state. About 64% of our students are community college transfers from Miami-Dade community, Broward community, Palm Beach community, and of course, a huge number from Indian River Community College. And it allows us to do things here. And I would hope they'd say the same thing, that without one another we couldn't do. It's a marvelous partnership that provides efficiency and cost effectiveness to students and access, Commissioner, as you mentioned, that just wouldn't be available without the fact that we share facilities, we share people, we share programs, and it is a model, I think, for the nation that we have in Florida with our 2+2 system. So I thank you for reminding me about that, because it is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to join in also, and just say that I went to the Design Institute that you all sponsored, and found the planning that it was beneficial in my thinking about planning, and you supplied planners and others that were a part of that, and there were other communities. You got to meet with other people and network. And I think it's a good service to the Treasure Coast along here that this happens. And I found it. I didn't know quite what to expect, but I found it very beneficial and very interesting. And they did an excellent job on it.
I'm glad to hear that, Commissioner Wheeler. Thank you, and I will carry that back to the right people so we can continue. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
Ditto. I attended that too. I think I was in your first class, and I'm also on your advisory board. And so this is a love fest with Florida Atlantic University.
That's okay. I've stood in front of enough county commissions when it wasn't a love fest. I deserve this.
President Brogan, let me just say that I was at the inaugural game, and I truly appreciated the opportunity. It was a great event, a great victory event, and I wish you great success, the team this year. The only caution I have is that I don't necessarily know as an out-of-state president if they're going to allow you to play on the field as you did during that inaugural game. If anybody's watched any of the FAU games, President Brogan does not wear a suit to the game.
No.
He's ready for the game.
On the sideline.
And it was a privilege and an honor to be there.
We're delighted, and we do. That's an open invitation, not just to a game, any game. We love to have our folks come and represent. So thank you again very much for having us this morning. Again, I know you got a packed agenda, and I thank and respect the people who deferred to us this morning their issues. I know what you guys do, and appreciate it very much. And we will see you soon, I hope. Thank you all again.
Thank you very much again.
Madam Chair, it's kind of a running joke, but I've had the pleasure of seeing President Brogan several times, and this is probably the shortest presentation I've ever seen him give.
Yes.
I know. Quite well.
Thank you. Okay. It's always a pleasure having you here. Presentation of the 2007 Annual Report by Workforce Development Board, President CEO, Brenda Thompson. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to present the Workforce Development Board's 2007 Annual Report. But I think one of the most difficult jobs is to follow Frank Brogan up to any podium. He always gives such a good report, and he's such a dynamic speaker. You have in front of you a copy of the report. Feel free to refer to it, but I'm going to hit the highlights in the report for you. The board offers workforce solutions for businesses and job seekers through 4 one-stop career centers, 1 each in Indian River, Martin, Okeechobee, and St. Lucie counties. And we have 2 mobile units that may be deployed anywhere. The board contracts with an independent contractor, Arbor Employment and Training, for the provision of direct services to the board's primary customer, the employer, and the board's clients, job seekers. A multitude of job seeker services are provided at the career centers, including career assessment and planning, job search assistance, workshops, work readiness training, referrals to jobs, on-the-job training, tuition assistance for job training, support services such as transportation, work tools, and uniforms, and referrals to other community-based services for adults and dislocated workers, as well as specialized services for youth ages 14 to 21. There's an array of business services that help employers find qualified workers for their jobs or train their existing workforce. A toll-free number, 1-866-4U2-HIRE, is dedicated for employers seeking workers. On-the-job training and employed worker training provide reimbursements to employers to offset the cost of training a workforce. Access to the state's incumbent worker training and quick response training programs is available through the career centers. Business services consultants meet with employers to identify their needs and structure services accordingly. Certification programs such as Work Certified and Ready to Work ensure that employers are hiring workers with the basic skills to be successful on any job. This past program year, we served 841 employers with more than 20,000 reportable services and helped 16,050 job seekers connect with a job, job training, or other services. Our typical client is an economically disadvantaged white female with a high school diploma. 370 youths were provided career guidance, educational remediation, and employability skills. The board invested $7 million in these services. 91.5% of the dollars were expended on direct services for customers and clients. An additional $500,000 in special grant funds provided training for 933 workers in the life and health sciences, as well as emerging industries for 73 different employers. Leveraged funding with the employers and other community partners generated more than $1.6 million in additional investments in the skills of Treasure Coast workers. With a focus on increasing the number of Treasure Coast youth engaged in career and technical training, the board partnered with the St. Lucie County School District on a choice replication project. This project created a new advanced manufacturing pre-engineering career academy with specialized coursework leading to national certification. To support the lessons learned during the school year, the Workforce Board sponsored summer internships for 28 top-performing students. The internships provided students with work readiness training and hands-on work experiences in manufacturing. The project resulted in a Choice Academy, a designation earned by very few programs statewide. The lessons learned through this project will serve as a basis for ongoing collaborative projects between the Workforce Board and the Treasure Coast School Districts through Florida's new Career and Professional Education Academies, which are now mandated by Florida legislation. During the year, the National Association of Workforce Boards recognized our partnership with Aegis Communications Group, a private employer, with the Theodore E. Small Workforce Partnership Award, one of the most prestigious national awards any workforce board can win. Although this was exciting and rewarding, the board embarked on a new adventure that is proving to be even more exciting and challenging. Based on survey results collected by an independent third party, the board, in partnership with Arbor Employment and Training, developed a business improvement plan. Through this strategic plan, customer and client workforce services are being improved, new financial resources for reinvestment in our Treasure Coast workforce are being developed, and the board is assuming management of the career centers and business services with the goal of improving customer satisfaction and performance. This summer, we are launching a new brand, Workforce Solutions, and a new logo to unite the one-stop career centers and the Workforce Board. Despite the challenges presented by consistent reductions in funding, we are now moving forward with new innovative programs, projects, and services that meet the needs of both businesses and job seekers. Thank you for the privilege of presenting this report this morning, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Thank you very much. You always do an outstanding job, and we enjoy working with you.
I enjoy it also. Thank you very much.
Next, we have a presentation from New Horizons President, CEO, John Romano. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Okay, Frank. Madam Chair, fellow commissioners, for the record, John Romano, I'm the CEO of New Horizons, and what you're going to be looking at in a second, can you hear me okay? We're going to be looking at in a second is the Units of Service Report. I send you these every 3 months quarterly, so you can take a look at the services we're providing specifically for Indian River County clients. So what I did was I just consolidated this. This really isn't a presentation per se. I just thought it would be a good idea if I got this information before you. It's been 6 months now, and if you have any questions about what we're doing in Indian River County, I'd be glad to answer those. But just let me highlight this for you, if I may. For the first 6 months of this fiscal year, our fiscal year starts July 1. I know yours starts October 1. We provided 18,407 units of service to 1,370 Indian River clients. Now, that's an unduplicated count. So I think that's I think that says something there in terms of the numbers. And if you look at the dollar value, it's a little over $1.4 million worth of services that we provided in the first 6 months of our fiscal year. So we're leveraging the $420,000 that you give us to help us serve Indian River clients, I think, pretty well. And Commissioner Wheeler, I did get your letter. I'm preparing information for you as we speak. I've got a CARF survey for my agency, excuse me, coming up this week. I'm sorry, I have a head cold. And CARF is the Commission on Accreditation for Rehabilitative Facilities, and it's basically the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval. It's an outside organization that comes in and looks at your organization from top to bottom. And we've been accredited now for over 11 years, give or take. So we're looking forward to that. But it's a massive project getting everything ready for these for the survey team to come in. They bring in 4 or 5 folks, and they're here for 3 days, and so we're jumping all over the place. So Commissioner Wheeler, I will get you that information. Commissioner Wheeler asked me, and I'm glad you did, frankly. I wrote you a letter a little bit ago, and I had said something, I can't remember it specifically, but basically I said it was a fact that community mental health centers save you money. And so Commissioner Wheeler sent me a letter and said, show me. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be glad to share that information with the rest of you as well. So that's all I really have to say. Unless you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those questions for you.
Commissioners, any questions? Mr. Wheeler?
Right.
You'll wait your letter. Thank you very much.
Okay. And thanks for your time, and thanks for all the help you've given our clients.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation and proclamation honoring African American Pioneer Month, February 2008. We have Commissioner Flesher. This is his district, and he will be delighted to proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Today I have a very unique opportunity to present many individuals a well-deserving proclamation. The proclamation is regarding African American Pioneer Month, and I have 15 recipients, so I'd like to take the opportunity to read off the recipients, then deliver the proclamation. At that time, if we all want to gather and maybe have a few words, I'd appreciate that. This proclamation, recipients are as follows: Bruce McIntosh, Irvin Cartwright, Habakuk B. Whitfield, Dorothea McGriff, Fred Player, Robert Jake Taylor, Larry Staley, Lawrence Trapp, Terry Lynn Moody, Vendaria Burgess, Earthine Player, Reverend Chris Bajul, Victor Dixon, Lieutenant Leroy Smith, and Corporal Darrell River. The proclamation is as follows. This proclamation is honoring African American Pioneer Month, February 2008. Whereas Since the 1940s, several prominent African-American men and women of Indian River County have paved the way for this generation and many to come to serve in the business, public, and elected arenas. And whereas Bruce McIntosh, serving as president and vice president of the West Wabasso Civic League, along with Irvin Cartwright, established the Douglas School, the Economic Opportunity Commission, and the first local volunteer fire department. And whereas Habakkuk B. Whitfield, Dorothea McGriff, Fred Blair helped with organization representing the Gifford community, such as the Wabasso Gifford Pioneers and Progressive Civic Leagues, and the Martin Luther King Ceremony Committee of the Indian River County. And whereas the field of sports, Coach Robert Jake Taylor, as coach of the all-black Gifford High School 1950s and 1960s, led the Tigers to numerous state championships, finals, and several state titles during his tenure. Coach Larry Staley was the first black employee of Indian River County Recreation Department to be promoted to facility manager at the Gifford Aquatic Center. And whereas in the field of education, Lawrence Trapp was the first African American to head the music department in the old Gifford High School. Terry Lynn Moody taught dance. Vanderia Burgess helped change the direction of children's lives by teaching physical education and organizing the first after-school program. Earthine Clare taught for 40 years and continues to tutor students, and Reverend Christian Bajul started to Gifford Youth Activities Orchestra and the tennis team and the Gifford Newsletter. And whereas in the field of military service and law enforcement, Victor Dixon moved to the rank of combat lieutenant in the military. Lieutenant Leroy Smith was the highest ranking law enforcement officer in the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, and Corporal Darrell River was the first African American to work as a detective in both general and special operations. And now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River in the state of Florida that the proclamation signifies the historic accomplishments of these noble pioneers in civil rights, education, public service, business, and elected office. And they will be forever remembered as bridge builders in the African American generations to come. And let it be further proclaimed that the month of February be forever known as Indian River County as African American Pioneer Month, adopted this 19th day of February 2008, signed by all 5 county commissioners. We do have proclamations for all of our recipients. If we'd like to perhaps maybe stand in front of the dais so we can present you with your proclamations.
Come on, Ryder. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's going to come down a little further.
Get the ceiling.
We're going to have a brief presentation, and after the photo opportunity, and then Detective Teddy Floyd will make sure that everyone else has their proclamations. Thank you.
You want to come be in the picture?
Yes.
Press journal.
The media is everywhere.
We don't want to hurt the
We got you.
Thank you.
All righty.
I'd like to say to the Commissioner, County Administrator, and County Attorney, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity allowing me, as an Indian River County, born and raised, longtime resident, to be a part of this community and work for the numbers of years that I've put into the community. I came back here after graduating, had an opportunity to run in the 1980 Olympics, and President Carter boycotted the Olympics. And I puzzled with many thoughts in my mind of what I wanted to do after graduating from a prestigious black college, St. Augustine's University in North Carolina. I once thought that I would stay there in North Carolina and do my teaching there after receiving honors and doing my studies. So I decided, I said, well, you know what, it's cheaper if I come back home. And after graduating from college, you know, my parents didn't do me like these kids' parents today. Buy you a Mercedes-Benz and you can ride on high school campuses, BMW. I had to struggle. You know, I thought maybe that graduation would sum it all up for me. I just go out there and purchase an automobile. But it was cheaper and better for me to come back home. When I got here, I struggled for those few months in 1980 to find some kind of job placement. And everywhere I went, I was either overqualified or underqualified. I could never figure out the overqualified. Seemed like those overqualified be the people that you would most want. But anyway, to get to a long, short story, I was getting ready to walk out and go and sign up to be in the Air Force. I spoke with some gentlemen earlier about being in the Air Force. I wanted to become an Air Force pilot. And as I was walking out of the door, I received a phone call. My mother said, I have a phone call for you. You want me to take it? You want to take it? And I thought for a moment. I said, well, you know what? I'll take it. And as I went in and answered the call, it was Mrs. Pat Callahan. She was saying to me, she said, you know, you worked along with the Recreation Department while you were here as a high school student, summer job. She said, we have an opportunity for you to get a job if you're still looking for a job. And I said, yes. And in 1981, I received that job. through the help of the commissioners, Commissioner Dick Byrd was the commissioner at the time, one of them, through the help of the Progressive Civic League of Gifford, and also through the help of Mrs. Callahan, a longtime employee of mine. And I just want to say that I think this community, the taxpayers, the commissioners, and all who strived along with me through those 26 years of working in this community diligently, trying to make a better community, not just for Gifford, but the entire Indian River County. My work extended all the way from Fairsmere. I was a karate instructor in the city of Fairsmere. And from Fairsmere to Oslo, the entire county, I worked through the recreation program. And I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Commissioner, we won't prolong the time. We just want to really thank you. We're very fortunate to have you in leadership roles. We thank you, each and every one of you, for acknowledging. And in years to come, we'll continue to make these people who, not just only in the black community, but Indian River as a whole, making it better. And we just thank you for what you've done. Have a great day.
Thank you, Teddy.
Next, we have a presentation of a proclamation commemorating Step Up Florida. If Miranda Swanson, Mike Redstone, and Cliff Crawford could come to the podium, please, to receive this. Good morning. Hello. We have a proclamation commemorating Step Up Florida, whereas a healthy and productive community is essential to the mission of Indian River County's ability to successfully promote and protect the health and safety of all its citizens. And whereas citizens who are engaged in health-promoting habits and less likely to develop the chronic conditions of coronary heart disease, stroke, lung cancer, chronic obstruction lung disease, and diabetes, all of which cause death. And whereas much of the chronic diseases burden is preventable because effective prevention measures exist today and substantially curtail the illnesses, disabilities, and uncertainty to early deaths caused by these diseases. And whereas the implementation of a wellness event can benefit residents by improving their physical health and morale. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County that the Board encourages all residents to set goals to improve their health and wellness, as Step Up Florida is launched to motivate all residents to make healthy choices and strive for healthy lifestyles, adopted this 19th day of February 2008, signed by all 5 county commissioners.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to tell you about first is a little bit of the background about Step Up Florida. My name is Miranda Swanson. I'm the administrator at the Health Department. And this is actually our 5th statewide campaign that we are part of to promote healthy lifestyles and help decrease the incidence of obesity throughout the state. We've partnered with the Recreation Department, the Sheriff's Department, the School District, Sebastian Inlet State Park, the City of Vero Beach, Fellsmere and Sebastian, and many other community organizations throughout the years. And it's become really a great event. I know many of you are participating in our different events here in the county. Those started yesterday on the 18th and are going through the 23rd. And I'm going to let both of Mike and Cliff talk a little bit about our events from their perspective.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Redstone, Assistant Director. We started yesterday, kicked off Step Up Florida Week at the Gifford Aquatic Center, and had a great event. It was a little rainy in the beginning, but the sun came out, and everybody that attended had a great day. Wednesday is our next event. We're starting off bright and early in the morning at 7:30 a.m. with a beach walk, and that will start at the tracking station, and it's open to anybody that wants to come out and walk with us. It will be done on the beach, and again, it will start at the tracking station beach for A1A. And then that afternoon, we'll be moving to North County Aquatic Center for an activity, fun-filled day. There at the pool is a free event for anyone that would like to come out with games and healthy activities. And then on Saturday, we will close out the week with our Daddy-Daughter Dance, and that will be a Step Up Florida event also for us. And I'd like to thank the Health Department, Miranda and Tina for their partnerships. We enjoy working with them, and we look forward to many more adventures with them. So again, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple more events I just wanted to touch on. Tomorrow, starting at 9 a.m., there is going to be a walk from Beachland Elementary School to Osceola Magnet. The school district superintendent and the school board members will be doing that walk, and the Step Up proclamation will be read by the superintendent starting at 9. Also on Saturday, another exciting event that was real popular last year at Sebastian Inlet State Park, led by the park rangers. There will be a hike from 9 to 11. Admission is free of charge to the state parks for residents that will be attending the event, and the walk with Step Up Florida. And I'd encourage everyone to attend. It's a fun event, both with the events the recreation is sponsoring with the county and the city and the schools, and we're happy to promote physical activity in Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to read? And I'll see you at 7:30 in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
And Wednesday. Oh, well, it's time, man.
Our final presentation is by Donna Barone, president of Sebastian River High School Rowing Sharks Booster Club. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, sirs. Thank you for your time. I'm here to invite you personally out to see 54 Canal this Saturday, February 23rd at 8 a.m. to see our inaugural regatta. It's an incredible opportunity for Sebastian River High School to really show the community what this sport is about. 3 years ago, I really had absolutely no idea about the sport, and I don't know if any of you do. Well, the regatta, we're hosting 7 other high schools from around the state, from Gainesville to Fort Lauderdale. They will row in 60-foot-long boats. There's 9 students per boat, and it's 1,500 meters. Each race lasts about 7 minutes long, and it's intense. From go to finish, it's just incredible. And I'm also here to ask you for your support for this program. If there's any way for you to do that on the local or state level, our hopes is to have C54 a National Rowing Training Center site. Right now, there are a lot of other colleges that do come down to C54. It's an ideal location for this sport. It's protected by the wind. It's mostly flat most of the time, unless it's a very windy day. And hearing those other folks talk this morning about ankle monitors and how much that costs per day, and then seeing what this program has afforded to the students that have been involved just in its third year is an incredible juxtaposition to what he spoke about. He mentioned $12 or $8 a day. Well, this program is going to cost our students less than $3 a day. And we've had each year students actively recruited to colleges and go on to obtain scholarships to college just for being a part of this program. And our races start at 8 o'clock, and we really hope to see you out there and look forward to it. It's supposed to be a really nice day, 70s, 10% chance of rain. So come on out. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation. And I invite everyone, if you've never seen a rowing event, of course you've seen it in the Olympics, or you've seen it at perhaps an Ivy League college, you're looking at high school students that are motivated, well-trained, disciplined in this great sport.
Who've gone from couch potatoes to elite athletes.
And they work out each and every day during this season. And I think we should all try to get out there to C-54 Canal and show our support. This is a rowing club. Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Bowden, I appreciate you joining with me to support the team, and I hope to see all of us out there. I think that the young athletes deserve us to be there.
They do.
And I want to thank you, and as well as Coach Lang, for all he's done, and many of the volunteer and benevolent efforts that have taken place to make sure that this club exists. Again, a club.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, if you could come to the mic, if you have a question, be happy to hear it.
Thank you. Renee Renzi, Waverly Place, Vero Beach. Just wanted to know where the public access is. Where do you park at the C-54
There will
Canal?
be parking on site. If you come on up, we'll have lots of people there helping us to assist in parking. It's right on the canal. Also, we'll have it on the east side, too.
You come up I-95? Where do you go?
Yes, well, you can take 95 to County Road 512.
Okay.
Exit Fellsmere, exit Sebastian, head west.
Okay.
To
Broadway.
And then north on Broadway. just
North
follow
on
that,
Broadway.
Go north out of Fellsmere on Babcock till you come to the Brevard Indian River County line, and then you'll see the crowd. It's on the west side of
Okay, thank you.
Babcock.
Give me something to do with my grandchildren.
Oh, good. We'll look forward to
They'll be
having you.
visiting.
I'll look for you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I wish I'd have known about the video. I would have loved to bring a slide presentation. See all our smiling faces.
Well, you can
Did an
come back
outstanding
after the
job.
results.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Moving on, consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to pull item D for
All right. Anyone else? I'll have a motion.
move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Number D, please.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I'd just like to introduce the appointment to the Emergency Services District Advisory Council. I have Mr. Charles Mike Marteau. He's back there in the back. You see his qualifications. He's very active in the Vero Lake Estates Volunteer Fire Department out there. And just wanted to, since he came to the meeting, I wanted to kind of let y'all put a face with the name and then thank him for serving. And with
Well, you want to say something? I know.
and with that, I move to approve item D.
Can I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Madam Chair, if I could.
Passes 5-0.
I've
Yes.
got something that I don't want to apologize for, but I'm going to have to leave for a minute. My daughter has a
Okay.
awards presentation, and I will be back.
Thank you very much. Constitutional officers and governmental agencies, Indian River County Sheriff Roy Raymond, application for a Victims of Crime Act grant, letter dated February 11, 2008, 109 to 138.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0. Note that Mr. Davis is not present. Forfeiture Trust Fund, letter dated February 8, 2008, 139.
Move approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Public items, public hearings, request for authorization to submit an FY 207-208 grant application for 49 USC Chapter 53, Section 5307, Mass Transit Capital and Operating Assistance. Memorandum dated February 2, 2008, 140 to 152. Good morning.
Good morning. Phil Matson's coming, and Phil will be presenting this.
Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. This is the 5307 Indian River County Urban Transportation authorization to submit a grant for urban transit capital and operating assistance. And those of you familiar with my MPO presentations know that I always make this gesture when I'm talking about 5307. That means we get $3 for every dollar we put in locally. The formality is to submit this 5307 grant. we have a targeted amount that we could apply for that's published in the Federal Register each year. It's just a suggested amount, a target. We typically request more than is published. We do that because there are several small urban areas that do not provide fixed route transit system in the state. So we're fortunate to have an active partner who helps us provide service and add to service whenever possible. It does have to be matched, as I've mentioned. Typically $2 come from this 5307 grant and what's known as the Public Transit Block Grant, or a state capital and operating match that's provided by DOT. We do have to provide the local matching share. This year's grant federal amount is $1,500,615. We'll submit this to the state. It's more than what we're targeted to receive. We typically receive a little bit less, but that will cover our capital and operating expenses through the next year. And we can accumulate this funding. We have a few grants that are up to 3 and 4 years old now from 5307. We use that as our emergency funds and for capital replacement, bus procurement, et cetera. Just a couple of real quick statistics on our transit system. We've actually expanded our fleet size from 47 vehicles in 2002 to 61 recently. This mirrors the growth in population, and particularly our transportation-dependent populations here in the county. Our ridership has gone from 160,000 in 2001 to 360,000 fixed route. Add another 100,000 people on a door-to-door basis. One very interesting statistic that came up recently when we did our transportation disadvantage plan was almost 1 out of 2 people are category 1 or 2 transportation disadvantaged here in the county. And that would mean over 65 in population, disabled, or low income, some combination of the 3. It's 1 and 2. So we really have tremendous needs here. Fortunately, we'll be able to qualify for this for at least a couple of more years where we get that $3 of assistance for every dollar we match. We are asking your cooperation at this time in submitting our request for the 5307 capital and operating grant, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about the particulars of the grant.
Thank you. Any questions, Commissioner?
Just, Phil, the county share, that's already in our budget for this year, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to have a motion now.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Do you need to close the
Well,
public hearing?
yes. Close. Anyone like to speak? Close the public hearing. Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Amendment to ordinance number 2003, codifying and publishing the ordinances of read-up, the code up to including supplement 65, memorandum dated February 11, 2008, 153 to 156.
Madam Chairman, this is a requirement of state law that we periodically update our code. The code is considered the best evidence of the current law of the county, but as you know, we periodically supplement it as we adopt ordinances from time to time. And the purpose of this ordinance is to update the code to incorporate all the supplements from number 44 through 65 so that the more recently adopted ordinances become part of the official code for purposes of evidence of law. And with that, you could open the public hearing and see if there's any comment.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Anyone like to speak to this item? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. I'll accept a motion.
Move staff recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Public notice items. Notices of scheduled public hearings for March 4, 2008. Winter Grove Subdivision, Petition Water Service, 28th and 29th Courts, and 7th Place, north of North Winter Beach Roads, 69th Street, Indian River County, project number UCP 3013. Memorandum dated February 7, 2008. This is administrative. The second one, board consideration of approved purchase of Johns Pier site under the County Environmental Land Acquisition Program. Memorandum dated February 11, 2008. This also is administrative. County Administrator's Matters, Dodger Agreement. Mr. Byrd.
Yes, in front of you today we have the agreement that we've reached with the Dodgers. The agreement consists of the Third Amendment to the facility lease agreement and a termination and release agreement. In summary, what it does is that if it has kind of ironed out some target dates so that we could negotiate with another team in the event that the Dodgers do leave. Part of the agreement, the first part is if the Dodgers wanted to stay under the current lease until 2021, they would have to notify us by March 31st of 2008. And if they elect to stay, they would lose their purchasing rights. If they leave before 2021, if they make the commitment to stay through to 2021, they would have to pay liquid damages in the amount of $575,000 per year. If they do not take this option, the lease changes will through the year 2021. If they don't take that option, then they will have to play at least 12 games next year if they were to stay. There's certain target dates. If the Dodgers have the option for an early termination of the facility lease agreement by July 15th, 2008, and the Dodgers have to notify the county of their termination by July 15th, 2008 if they're not going to play in 2009. And then their final exit would be 2010 if they don't take if they do not notify us by March 31st, 2008 that they are leaving. So that's kind of a quick summary. It's been a long, hard negotiations. It hasn't been easy on either party. However, they've been good. Dodgers have actually been a great part of this community for 50 years, and we just needed to get this arrangement finished so that we could start working with another team and have actual dates in which to work with.
Thank you. Any questions of our administrator? Thank you for the update.
Just, Madam Chair, Joe, the Dodgers are prepared to sign this as presented to us today. Is that correct?
They've already signed it.
They've already signed it?
Yeah, they signed 5 originals and dropped them off yesterday.
Okay.
All right. If there's not any objection from the commission, would you?
I don't have any.
We can take public input.
We can take.
Public.
This is not a public hearing, but we can take public input, and we'll be happy to hear you. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is John Clinton. I live in Mockingbird Drive, Vero Beach. I was fortunate enough to read the agreement this morning on the internet. And if I read it correctly, this agreement voids the provision of the original lease agreement that says if the Dodgers were to leave, they would repay the bond that is currently being owed by the county. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, because the concern was that they could pay off the bonds and purchase the facility. We did not think that the community, and develop that property, and we didn't think the community wanted that, so we took that provision out and put in liquidative damages instead.
Well, I suspect that there's a few $1 million still outstanding. Liquidated damages, I think, are somewhere around $500,000. In light of the fact that officially there is not a team named to replace them now, how can in good conscience you go out and agree to allowing the Dodgers not to pay this penalty, which was put into the lease specifically to prevent the Dodgers from doing what they're doing now?
The reason we did not keep the current penalty is we felt the community wanted that to remain in its natural state as a stadium. If they pay off the bonds and purchase the facility, they can utilize that and they can develop it into aviation zoning development, which we thought the community didn't want. So why we have changed that is because we feel that this is a better way of keeping it in its current character, leaving it the way it is, and try and recruit another team to come there. And we've had a lot of interest.
Well, it'd be nice to keep it as a baseball stadium. I'll agree with that. But in light of the fact that over 60% of us would like to see the government cut their expenses, one way to do it would be to put that back on the tax rolls, have our debt paid off, and see what happens if it stays a baseball stadium. I think you're taking a big risk by assuming that the next tenant is going to have a favorable contract. That was part of my reason to interrupt you.
You are correct.
Hope you consider the fact that the future is still not written in stone, and there may not even be a replacement team as far as we know. Thank you very much.
The gentleman is correct. There is a risk at trying to get another team. Nothing is in concrete, but we felt that is a risk worth taking. We feel that the best use of that property is a stadium for baseball, and we're going to try and keep it in that same character as it is now, and that's why we needed this agreement, so as we can move on and start talking to other teams. But the gentleman is correct. I would like to point out one thing. The debt service on that facility is about $1,250,000 a year. Of that, $500,000 comes from the state. About $350,000 comes from tourist tax, and only about $400,000 of that is really from our local level. So we feel it was one of our best real estate purchases. It's a 64-acre facility, and it has a convention center, a hotel, and everything else. And we feel it's in our best interest to keep it in the character that it is today and try and get another team for economic development reasons.
Thank you. We have the next item of business is...
Madam Chair, I think we need to give some direction here to move forward with this.
Would you like to make a motion?
Yes.
Because I cannot.
Yeah, I first would like to say, it's a tough thing with the Dodgers leaving. I understand they're doing it for their reasons, and good luck to them moving forward. I think that this agreement allows the county to move forward, particularly as of March 31st. If the Dodgers don't execute the 2021 lease, then we can move forward with securing another team to come in here and use the facility. So I think this allows for a very graceful exit from the relationship we've had with the Dodgers, and allows both the Dodger organization and the county to move forward. And I'm looking forward to a great spring here with the Dodgers, and if it's the last one, so be it. But I think it'll be a great spring, and I'm looking forward to it. And with that, I would move that we approve the agreement, and we authorize the chairman to sign the release and termination agreement, the Third Amendment to the facility lease agreement, and any other related documents.
And I second that, and I also agree that we have had a joyful relationship through over 50 years with the Dodgers, and we wish them well, but we also are looking forward to a new team. And I thoroughly know that our county administrator will make that happen.
And I would like to publicly acknowledge the efforts Joe Baird has put into getting this to where we are today to move this forward. I know the Dodgers had a tough negotiating team, and Joe held firm, and I think this is a very positive step forward for all parties. So I appreciate all the hard work and late phone calls and everything that Joe's put in to get this where we are today.
I would like to say probably the Dodger organization wouldn't have the success it has today if it wasn't for Craig Callen, who's been a great member of this community and has made the Dodgers successful in this community. He's always been a pleasure to deal with. We haven't always agreed on everything, but he's always been a gentleman and professional, yes. And I would like to thank him for that.
Yes, and I'm sure the exit will be smooth in the end, and we'll all benefit from it. Thank you. Would you like to say something?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what's been said to some degree. It's kind of like a 50-year marriage that's parting friendly. But I would like to say that in the 36, 37 years I've lived here, the Dodger organization has been very much a part of Indian River County. They've done many, many, many things for charitable organizations. They've been great neighbors, great residents. And although I think many, many people are sad to see them go, it's I'd just like to say we've got a moment of stress here the last year or so, but all the good things the Dodgers have done for Indian River County and Vero Beach have been well worth it. And Craig, I personally wish you much success, and I wish the Dodgers much success.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you very much. I guess you have your marching orders.
Yes.
Okay, Human Resources, collective bargaining agreement between the Indian River County and Teamsters, Local 769, memorandum dated February 12th, 2008, pages 159 to 212. Good morning.
Hello.
Now it is.
Sorry about that. Good morning, Jim Sexton, Human Resources Director in Indian River County. It's my pleasure today to put before you a collective bargaining agreement that was hammered out over several months with the local Teamsters 769. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Otherwise, we can move forward with the ratification.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I second. We have several seconds, and I want to commend everyone on this. I think it was over 90% approval, and that speaks well of the Teamsters and of our staff. I thank you very much for your hard work.
I think it'd be appropriate to acknowledge Steve Myers
Yes.
on the
Is he?
negotiating team for the.
There he is.
Oh,
right in the back.
Yeah.
Would you like to say anything, Steve?
I just want to say, I know there's a little struggle there for a while, then Steve met with Joe, and they had some very positive one-on-one meetings, and they resolved the outstanding issues, and by cooperating and working together, I think they brought forward a contract that, again, I think was a 93% ratification. So, again, just Steve, I appreciate you all coming forward and working with us and recognizing it's a tough budget time, and appreciate that.
I'd like to thank Steve, too. In these tough times, it hasn't been easy, and he said to do what he had to do, and I want to thank him for being cooperative.
And it was seconded.
Okay, we have a motion in 2 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you
Madam
very
Chair?
much. Yes.
It wouldn't have happened without this man as well, and the 93% of the membership that immediately said it's time to complete this task. And again, recognition to all. We're in economically stressed times, and I believe that the best decision was made for all of the employees and the county.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim did an excellent job. I don't have to get involved much due to his knowledge, and it was a hard time. I'd like to thank him.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes. Office of Management and Budget. Now here's the real hard stuff.
Should we take a break before we start? I think this
Would you
might be
like to
my
take a
thing.
break?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just hold off for a moment, please. 10-minute break. Come back to order, please. We have a report from the Human Resources. Oh, no, we've done that. Office of Budget Management. Tax Reform, Amendment Number 1. Is that where we are? Memorandum dated February 12, 2008.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Commissioners. For the record, I'm Jason Brown, County Budget Director. What I want to do today is kind of give an overview of Amendment 1 and its impacts on the county, and not just that, but also the economic conditions that we're facing and kind of what we're looking at for next year's budget, and giving an overall framework of the magnitude of what we're looking at. What I won't be doing is giving specific recommendations on what the cuts are. I think there was some confusion in the newspaper about that, saying that we were going to be making, specific recommendations. That's not what I'll be doing here today. We'll be working on those recommendations literally, through up through the budget workshops in July. We just want to kind of set the table for what the magnitude of the revenue reductions are and the types of things that we'll need to look at, but no specifics. And just because we may mention something that we're looking at doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. So if I could begin, basically just wanted to run down the list of things that we're facing. First of all, as you're all aware, we had legislatively imposed cuts in the year we're in of 5% in our taxing funds. With the exception of the Emergency Services District, that was a 3% cut. So the year we're in, we already had to make some cutbacks from the previous year. So just wanted to keep that in mind. And then Amendment 1, of course, passed January 29th. And I wanted to go over the overall economic conditions of the county and real estate market and values and the taxpayer sentiments out there. Don't want to dwell on the past too much, but just those 5% cuts this year. The year we're in, we eliminated 57 full-time positions from the budget in order to get to that target for this year. So we have trimmed back already in the year we're in. Still, we faced several other rising costs, health insurance, fuel, all those things that the taxpayers themselves face. Amendment 1, it required a 60% approval to pass. Any constitutional amendment requires a 60% approval. It received 64% statewide, so it did pass, obviously, as everyone knows. In Indian River County, the vote was even stronger in favor. It was a 70% yes vote to a 30% no, so that's quite a mandate that I think we received from the taxpayers. Just a brief rundown. I don't want to be overly repetitive here, but Amendment 1 consists of four major items that affect us. There's an additional $25,000 homestead exemption. This provision applies to local governments, cities and counties and special districts, but does not apply to school districts. This is also the largest number impacting us this year. Then there's Save Our Homes portability of up to $500,000 that allows anybody to take their accrued Save Our Homes cap with them. Then there's a $25,000 tangible personal property exemption of $25,000 on commercial for businesses. And then moving forward, there's a 10% assessment cap for those non-homesteaded properties. Almost all non-homesteaded properties for like a snowbird, winter resident, or commercial property. Here's our estimate of Amendment 1's impact, $5.7 million in total for us. General funds $3.1 million, MSTU $700,000, Emergency Services Districts $1.5 million, and interland acquisition bonds $400,000 for a total of $5.7 million this year. Now this estimate includes the biggest part is from the additional $25,000 homestead exemption. It includes the $25,000 tangible personal property exemption. There is not a number in here for Save Our Homes portability. We simply don't have the information to know what that number is. We know it will be something. We don't know what it will be. So this $5.7 million really is a best case scenario. We know it's going to be at least this much. It's going to be more than that depending on how much portability costs us.
Jay, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Jason, the land acquisition bond's $400,000. Is that because we paid them off, or are you required to cut that? That's a bond that was that was approved by the voters, that falls into this cut also?
Our interpretation is that falls in. The changes that impacted us this year, any voted GO debt was exempted. However, our comprehension of Amendment 1 would be that it applies to that because it takes that away from the taxable value. So we're estimating in this that we're going to lose roughly $1 billion in taxable value. That will happen in land acquisition bonds also. Obviously, in that case, and this is a small portion of the tax bill, but we're going to have to raise the millage to make up for that in those instances so that we can pay those bonds back. We have to fulfill our obligations that
Right.
were voted for by
So it's a shortcoming, but the fund isn't cut $400,000.
Right. And that's why there was an earlier number we put out that was 5.3 million. You know, do you put it in there or not? Because we're not going to be able to reduce those millages by 400,000. We're going to have to make up for that because we have an obligation to the bondholders to pay those bonds back. We borrowed those funds. The voters approved it. And for some reason, the legislation this year didn't exclude that for the following year. The legislation that was passed last year by the legislature did exempt voted bonds, so there wasn't that impact on them this year. However, the way Amendment 1 was done, it will impact those bonds. We'll just have to raise that millage in that instance. You know, in the other areas we have the ability to make revenue or to make expenditure reductions and keep the millage the same. We don't have that ability in the bonds because we have to pay those back.
Thank you, Jason.
Also, the overall economy. The unemployment rate for November was 6%. That compares to 4.3% in November of 2006. 6% doesn't sound all that bad, but if you think about it, we've got seasonality to our unemployment. That's starting to get into the season. That's our lower period. That's part of our lower period for unemployment. In the summer months, we're much higher when tourism and citrus are slower. And the last time I looked back, the last time we were at a 6% unemployment rate in November. The following summer, we were at 10%. So that means 1 out of 10 people out of work, basically, that's in the workforce that's looking for work. Housing sales, everyone, you know, if you watch TV or read the newspaper, you always seem to see stories about housing sales and prices dropping. That's also, you know, evident in housing starts, which is part of the unemployment problem, because when you can't sell a house, people stop building them, and construction's one of our major industries here in the county, so that impacts our economy obviously further. We're estimating right now that we could have a tax roll decline due to those housing prices and real estate prices overall declining. We're thinking that could be as much as 10%. We don't know what that is yet. Obviously, the property appraiser has to put that roll together, and he doesn't have to give us an estimate until June 1st, and then his roll not till July 1st, and they're still putting that all together. But our best guess right now is probably closer to 10%. That would be a $10.2 million loss to the county taxing funds. Our other revenues are down, reflecting the weak economy. One of our other largest revenue sources is sales tax. That's down 14% from last year, 13.9. State revenue sharing's down a little under 3%. Gas taxes are down 6.9%. That can be somewhat counterintuitive because we have gas taxes. We've got 6 cents of local option gas tax. That 6 cents is a per gallon basis. So it's different. It behaves differently than a sales tax, which is a percentage basis, because if as fuel prices go up, people might think, oh, well, your gas taxes will go up. They would if they were on a percentage basis, but since they're on a per gallon basis, that actually pushes our revenues down because people drive less, they take less unnecessary trips, they may carpool. So whether gas is $1 a gallon or $3 a gallon, we're getting 6 cents. So it's not like we're gaining anything there. We're losing when gas prices go up because people cut back on unnecessary trips. Building permit revenue down 33% actually. The updated numbers for January, that's at 40% now. And the fire department building permit revenue is down 41% from 05-06. So if you add up the impact of Amendment 1, which is a 5.6% decrease, and an estimated 10% decrease in the tax roll, you've got over 15.5% reduction from the current year, which is $15.9 million. That is exclusive of the other revenues that are declining, like the sales tax and the gas tax. So, that's a major nut to crack that we're looking for next year. What does this mean? How do we cut 15.6%, almost $16 million? Just to give you an idea of the scope of the magnitude of that number, the total budget for parks, recreation, libraries, children's services, all the nonprofits that we fund, and even if we said, well, we're going to cut back 20% of our general government expenses like buildings and grounds and things like that, in reflection of that, that's what it would take to get to $15.9 million. Another big issue, constitutional officers. Constitutional officers are 59% of the general fund. I'll expand on that a little bit later. And another major item, salaries and benefits. As with most organizations, especially service organizations, they're always your biggest expense. So if you're going to make meaningful cuts, you're going to have to impact your people, the salaries and benefits area. Constitutional officers, you can see the sheriff is the largest in the general fund at 51%. Slightly over half of our general fund budget is the sheriff. If you take the other constitutionals, they're about 8% altogether for a total of 59%. BCC departments and state agencies, nonprofits, all those other outside agencies that we fund, from the state attorney's office to the courts to the Department of Health, to all those children's services agencies, make up that other 41%. The reality there is, in the general fund, if we're going to achieve a 15% cut, we're going to have assistance from constitutional officers. They make up 59% of the general fund, as I mentioned before. Just a little math exercise: if there was no cut from the constitutional officers, we would have to cut everything else by 38% to reach a 15% cut. So obviously, as we're going through this, we're going to prioritize any cuts. We're not going to go and say, everything's got to be 15% across the board necessarily. We're going to have to make those, staff will have to make those recommendations to the board, and in the end, the board will have to make the policy decisions of what does get cut. But to do it without assistance from constitutional officers is going to be very difficult. Just to go into the salaries and benefits, you can see there 68.4% of the total budget. Operating expenditures make up the bulk of the difference. That includes your utility bills, phone bills, office supplies, equipment that you need. Capital's a small part, and then we have a very small amount for reserves and debt. Where do we spend the money on services? If you look at total taxing fund budgets, general fund, MSTU, transportation fund, and emergency services, we spend 58% of all of our taxing fund dollars on public safety. The next largest percentage is general government at 16%. Road maintenance and design is 12%. Libraries at 3.4%. Parks and Rec is a little under 5%. Outside agencies 4%. That is a rundown of how we spend those taxpayer dollars. The next question is public safety. Staff is mindful that public safety is a top priority for the constituents, for the voters, and for the commission. However, it's another scenario of it will be very difficult to make cuts totally exempting public safety. Obviously, we're going to have to prioritize cuts, and public safety is a top priority, and those will be the the last place that we have to cut, but there will need to be some reductions there. We did the same analysis just for illustrative purposes of if we didn't cut anything from public safety, we'd have to cut everything else by 37% to pardon me, to reach the 15% cut. If we said, well, we'll cut out non-essential items, if you just look at the magnitude of the cut, if you take the total budget for libraries, parks, recreation, the outside agencies we fund, all that together is a little under 14%. If you look at the general government expenditure, it's 16%. That may be, people may say, well, there's your overhead, there's your administration. One thing I'd like to point out is a third of that is for constitutional officers. A third of that 16%, over 5% of the total budget is for property appraiser, tax collector, supervisor of elections, and clerk of the court. So once again, we go back to needing assistance from the constitutional officers in making these cuts. Also, a large portion of the county budget is in support of those constitutional officers as well. If you look, over a quarter of that general government line item is facilities management. And I think we discussed this a little while ago when we were talking about the sheriff's budget and making some changes to the electric. As we sit now, without the sheriff's electric in there, a large portion of the facilities management budget goes to supporting constitutional officers. We have people out there maintaining the sheriff's administration building, making repairs at the jail facilities, paying the electric bills for the offices of the clerk of the court and the tax collector, the property appraiser, and supervisor of elections, maintaining the courthouse. All those things are wrapped up into there. So just want to give an idea of what the general government expenditures were made up of. Another problem with public safety, we have the luxury in places like the general fund to prioritize public safety and say that's the last place we're going to cut. We're kind of unique and not completely unique, because there are a lot of other counties and cities in this situation that may have a standalone emergency services fund. That's what we have here. The emergency services district comprises only fire rescue and advanced life support. We get no benefit from making a cutback in parks expenditures to get that emergency services district to where we need it to be. On a standalone basis, if we're going to meet those cutbacks, it's going to take a 15% cut from emergency services. Obviously, you all know the difficulty that would bring about, of what a 15% cut would do there to services, but it's in a standalone fund. I know to our South St. Lucie County, they're going to be in a similar situation. A lot of other counties and cities throughout the state. So some of the claims that have come from Tallahassee that we've heard that we're not going to impact public safety. I don't know how you're going to do it without raising the tax rate, because we don't have that liberty to cut back on some other non-essential function to get emergency services where it needs to be. The next question is, are we alone? No. Across the state, we're seeing some of these. We're seeing a lot of clippings from a lot of counties and cities that are having to make some of these difficult decisions. I've got a link here that hopefully will come up.
Click on the E. There you go.
The first one, and we'll have to see if that does come up for. There it is. Collier County, they have a recommendation on tap to eliminate 24 paramedic positions right now. So they're experiencing that.
Jason,
problem.
any idea why they chose the paramedic position, or, I mean, were they?
It had no choice because it's a public safety taxing fund that's short. So it's in that taxing fund.
Same situation that we have. You know, if you're going to make the cuts, it's going to have to come there. And if you look Hillsborough County, this is Pinellas County, you can see they have they're asking for a $25 million cut from their sheriff, looking at, dozens and dozens of jobs that need to be eliminated. Hillsborough and Tampa, Hillsborough was looking at 100 full-time positions they were eliminating. Martin County, to our south a week or so ago, they had a recommendation to eliminate 100 positions. These are just a handful of examples. I show Martin County because they're near us and similar size, and
yeah, they got hit a little harder on the tax roll. I think they're $20 million off on their tax roll. St. Lucie property appraiser came out and announced that he's got 15% reduction most likely on his tax roll along with Amendment 1. So a lot of these counties are having it even harder than we do because of they're having larger corrections in their tax roll along with Amendment 1.
Right, and I think they even proposed, but I don't think it got approved, like an early retirement payout to try and get some of the employees to leave voluntarily, but I think that was turned down. But just wanted to show a couple of those to show that this is happening across the state. Everybody's having to make some very difficult decisions. Next, I wanted to turn to what can we look at. Like I said before, this isn't a recommendation of specific cuts that we're going to make, but these are the types of things that we're going to have to explore in the next couple of months to get to that point. Anywhere we can increase efficiencies, do more with less, see if we can cut back on positions. We've got a we've got a hiring freeze on right now that we're holding most of the vacant positions open to try and keep those from being live bodies where we can. We go into a hiring freeze to keep vacancies so that when we have to make cuts, we can try to do them in the most humane manner possible and eliminate laying off people as to the largest extent possible. Looking at privatizations, we know we're looking at that for landfill, for the convenience centers, but we're looking at several other options.
Jason, Madam Chair. Jason, help me understand where we have enterprise funds or enterprise operations, and we privatize them. Help me understand where the ad valorem tax savings comes out of that.
In the landfill, what we have is it's not an ad valorem tax, but we have a non-ad valorem assessment, and that's about $70 on a single-family residence. As we accrue, if we can make cutbacks and make savings happen there, we can reduce that $70 assessment.
Also, our revenue is dropping off. In the landfill, you had lot clearing revenue. People who cleared lots dumped, they paid a fee. That's down 50%.
I'm clear on all that. I was having a hard time drawing the correlation between an ad valorem tax savings on an enterprise fund. And so what you're saying is that it's not necessarily an ad valorem savings, it's just a tax savings in the event we're able to reduce the fees that we charge the users of the enterprise fund.
Right, and that is levied on the tax bill.
And the landfill is a real different one. It's a special district that is a non-ad valorem special district that we treat as an enterprise fund. And so it's actually three different animals in one.
And just for my own clarification, did the January referendum affect anything on that?
No, the economy did. Okay. Just like my building department, I'm losing about $19,000 a week in my building department right now. Obviously I can't continue at that rate because it's supported by fees and they aren't coming in. So a lot of it, some of it's tax related, some of it's economy related. In fact, the tax situation, due to the economy being bad, and the tax roll being corrected because price sales are dropping. And so, and that's making it's all because of the economy in total, plus Amendment 1.
Also, we'll need to look at reduced hours of operations, maybe at libraries or perhaps seasonal operation of pools, just types of things that we need to look at. Another thing we're doing is we're moving forward with looking at energy savings contractors, people that come in, make recommendations to a facility where you can install new lighting or new HVAC systems and realize a savings in your electric bill. Obviously, that wouldn't apply to a building like this since it's brand new, but some of the other facilities we have, we're looking at that to see where we can cut those energy costs that we have. A lot of times that's a largely fixed expense, but we're looking into that to seeing what can be reduced. Just phone bill analysis, finding billing errors or anything that we can to reduce the phone bill. There are contractors that perform that function also. Consolidation of any programs where available. User fee analysis. There's frequently some criticism of if you deal with revenue cutbacks or with tax cutbacks with increasing user fees. We're not trying to do that, but what we think we need to do is look where we haven't adjusted a fee in numerous years. Maybe we need to look at that, and sometimes it's a decision of maybe it's a recreation program. Would it be more beneficial to the community to increase a user fee or have that program go away altogether? So it's not an issue of we're just trying to make up the tax dollars. It could be an issue of maybe it may cost people more to play a certain sport, but the public may prefer that to not having that option at all, because that could be our other alternative. So that's why we would look at that. Also looking at rebidding, renegotiating contracts with vendors like recycling and curbside pickup in landfill. Making any adjustments to the health insurance to manage those costs, to keep those costs from growing. Health insurance nationwide, the trend increase is between 9 and 12% per year. Has been for the last 10, 15 years. By all accounts, seems to keep heading that way. You kind of need to make adjustments just to keep up with that trend, just to hold your, if you're just going to hold costs the same, you have to make adjustments there, because that medical inflation is just so high year after year after year, and any increase in costs we have here gets passed on to the taxpayers. Looking at salaries, do we need to hold salaries? Property insurance changes. Obviously, property insurance has gone up vastly for the county in the last couple of years after the storms. We had several $1 million in losses in Francis and Jean, and insurers have really have dropped out of the market. Have just similar to what's happening in the average taxpayers' homeowners insurance. We've experienced the same thing. We're looking at
a question along those lines. With the property insurance changes, now we're self-insured under our health insurance, correct? And
yes.
Then we have a firm manage that. We purchase insurance for our facilities though. So we're not self-insured for cash, or what do they call that?
Well, we have high deductibles.
We have
really buy layer coverage.
Okay. As we then, as Commissioner O'Brien brought up with the walkthroughs that we've made aware of to individual homeowners to be able to save a substantial amount of money, have we seen if we could do something like that with our facilities through that same organization?
We can look at doing those types of things. We have done some changes. We did an analysis and a new inventory of our buildings and had somebody come out. That was about a year ago. We had a person come out and look at each of the buildings and write down those construction types and those types of things to to minimize the increases and kind of get the best rate that we can. So we have done some of that. We can continue to work on that some more.
But that program is available on commercial structures, I would assume, for insurance companies, not just residential structures.
Well, I think the more information you get them, they want to see if your buildings are up to the new code, because they've seen that the new buildings that were under the new code have done a lot better than the older buildings. So they want to make sure, see if you've updated your buildings to the new code, which if there's a storm, there seems to be less damage. So we try and give them all that information. And that's what we've been working on to try and get it. I wish the state legislators had worked on solving the insurance problem then rather than Amendment 1, because they didn't solve the insurance problem. But they worked on Amendment 1.
And we are currently going through that insurance renewal process. Our renewal date is March 1st. We will be bringing back renewal to the board at that meeting. I think there is a meeting on the 1st actually. And we've been working with that. We've been emphasizing that, a lot of our buildings now are new buildings. Now we're looking at insuring this building as opposed to the old building across the way, so they are looking at those newer building standards, and we're emphasizing that. We've asked them for cuts. What changes can we make? Can we increase our retentions as well? I think we have a $500,000 retention right now for storms and property damage, and do we need to look at increasing that to keep our costs down? And then just in closing, we're going to need cooperation from everywhere. Like I said before, we're not just going to go and blindly cut everywhere 15%, and we're not saying, well, we're going to jeopardize public safety or anything like that. We're going to prioritize the cuts that we need to make, but we're going to have cooperation from all service areas to reach that goal. It's a very difficult cut to make, and we're going to have to look under every rock.
Okay, one more suggestion that I didn't see on there. What is why aren't we looking at some early retirements?
Actually, what I'm going to talk to state legislators at the state, because early retirement, we are going to consider that. I mean, that's part of the salary.
That's good enough. I didn't see it on the list.
One of the things that would be helpful is the state would step up to the plate. The worst thing they ever came up with was drop. I mean, it made people stay longer at the highest pay, and if they'd come up with an early retirement plan that we could buy the benefits down. I've been talking to some state legislators, we could buy the person's benefits down so that they or pay for their retirement early, the state, then maybe they would retire. That's another thing that I've talked to the state about coming up with. I mean, the worst thing that ever happened was that drop plan. Your highest paid employees stay another 5 years. So
I think Gary had a question.
We're going to need some cooperation from the state. We've been talking to.
Gary?
Yeah, I've got several questions.
Can we hold all our questions, let him get through?
He is through. Are you not?
Yeah, I'm basically finished, yes.
Okay.
Says here questions.
Right.
Okay.
I can read, thank you. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I've got several questions and a couple of comments.
I'll tell you.
Start off with the comments. I think the state's been hypocritical in this whole process. They've used local government as a scapegoat. I think probably government at all levels has slop that they can tighten their belt up on, but the state has made this an issue on local government and have kind of exempted themselves from it. One thing, they weren't truthful in the 25,000 homestead exemption because it exempts the school board, so they're getting about 12,500 exemption. But that being said, and I'm disappointed that the state does that. One of the things I'd like to see in your list, Jason, I'd like to see it researched in every single state mandate that we have that's not paid for. I'd like to see during the budget time. For instance, the jail houses state prisoners that they're not reimbursed for, and they're responsible for them in medical after they've been rearrested for violation of parole and probation. And the state takes their sweet time in taking them back into the system. I'd like to know how much we spend on courts, public defender, prosecutors, and all of the systems that we work with that are state mandated. And another example is, I think in the neighborhood of $400,000 we spend annually for juvenile services. that they run, they bill us for. Are they cutting any of those programs or reducing the amount that we need to pay? And these are questions I have. I'd like to know, because they are a part of the problem. They're not a part of the solution as they presented themselves to be in the budget. And I do not fault the people for voting for tax reform. I think it's on everybody's lips. And I might also add that what they did do, though, because of the 30-second sound bites, is they've taken a situation that had a large gap between equitable tax, and they made the gap even larger by increasing the homestead exemption. Because now people that are subsidizing individuals on homestead exemption are going to subsidize even more, and that's non-homesteaded properties. And the gap's going to get worse. So I would like to be sure that we look at everything that we deal with the state, and they also talk about their budget only dropping 54%. I don't think that included this year's budget, where Governor Chris, I understand from reading the newspaper, hired 4,500 new people. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. I did read it in the newspaper. So that'll probably show up in next year's budget to see what their budget's dropped. So bottom line is, I'd just like to see the state accept some of the responsibility for what's gone awry in government and our taxing. And again, no fault. I think we all need to tighten our belts. But I want to look closely at state programs that we fund, that they send to us with a bill and no funding. A prime example that just occurred was almost $400,000 for voting machines that the state mandated. And they were generous enough to give us almost half of that money. They put up almost $400,000, and we had to spend $400,000. So it's just a little hypocritical. But I'm really want to see those when we get to budget time, so we know what we're voting for and against.
We'll prepare that for you. We'll be glad to, because I think that's an excellent point. With local governments, it's kind of the buck stops here. The state just keeps passing things down, and the counties and the cities basically have to deal with it, have to fund whatever they tell us to, and then at the same time they turn around and say, well, look, you've increased your spending too much after we've dumped a bunch of unfunded mandates on you. So
that's right.
And to follow up on that as another avenue of looking, we have to do this. So we can bellyache and complain all we want to, but it has to be done. The taxpayer has spoken loud and clear. So we need to begin deciding at some point how we're going to do this. One of the things I would like for you to also look at, please, is cooperation between the municipalities and the county. If there is anything we can do to reduce the cost with services and keep services for the general public, particularly in the summer when the students and the children are out of school, I think that would be beneficial to everybody. It's everybody's tax dollar, no matter what pocket it comes out of. So if we could at all join together and cooperate, it's difficult at times because how the state has set us up, sometimes we're adversaries with the municipalities and the cities. But if there's anything we can do together, I'd like to know that we have looked to see if we can join together. Mr. O'Brien? Yes.
I concur with Commissioner Wheeler and Commissioner Bowden's comments, and I just would add a little caveat. I think the tax assessment roll we're working on now, our 2007, 2008 budget, that tax assessment roll is, I believe, fairly flat, or might even ticked up a notch because there wasn't enough home sales to offset the new construction that came on. And then in the year 2007, we had falling residential home prices, which will now impact the assessment roll going forward for this year. But I'd just say, Jason, as you're looking at this, we might be looking at another year, 2008, of falling home prices. So the 2009 assessment might be down another 5 or 10% as well. So I think the pain, so to speak, is not going to be just this one year, but we might be looking at what we can cut as far as a multi-year. Because everything I've read, the home prices aren't going to start coming back in 2008, and 2009 seems to be up in the air as well. So this is the assessed roll is going to be a real issue for the next several years, I believe. So we just need to look at a little bit longer term than just this first budget.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. some statements have been made about why we are in the position we're in. Voters have spoken. 70%, over 70% stated that it's time for relief. They gave us our marching orders. They gave us our direction. I don't care if it's from the state mandates, or what has been decided upon, and where the governor felt he needed to take direction. The people need relief. And whatever that is, we need to get to that point. And I'd rather not cast doubt and blame, especially when you have such significant numbers stating we need relief. So, Jason, it's a long task.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Commissioner Davis?
I agree more with exactly what Commissioner Flesher just said versus what Commissioner Wheeler had mentioned. It's nice to be able to thumb the legislators in the eye, but it's kind of like, I think it's like the Serenity Prayer. It's the, God grant me the ability to change the things I can, the ability to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference. And we need to move forward in cutting. I mean, I've had, taxpayers in my office, Pam Hampton, in tears. She went from the school district to the property appraisers and back to my office trying to find a way of reducing her tax bill. She's concerned she's going to lose her house. That happened in the past 2 weeks. Those things are real. And, it's nice to be able to have that for talking points, but I don't really want talking points right now as much as I'd like to have things that are duplication points, things that we can start cutting back on, and let's move forward.
I agree with that, but I also, an education process as to what we absolutely are embodied as a government body to do. We can't do everything. We are limited as to what our government responsibility is, but all of the officers, I think this, Mr. Baird talked about, we all need to cooperate.
Madam
And
Chair.
if you have any outside-the-box thinking from anyone, we'd be happy to hear it. Commissioner Wheeler?
First, I'd like to say that I agree in the fact that we need to cut taxes and government spending at all levels. I did not foresee that I was putting my thumb in the legislature's eyes by simply telling the truth and the facts of what happened in this last election, and that we are being made the scapegoat for state government to look good at local government's expense across the state. That's a fact, that's the way it went, and that's not putting anything in anybody's eye. That's simply telling the truth, and it's not belly aching and asking for a list of state mandated programs, because I think we need to cut there as well as we need to cut other areas.
I don't see how, but I like what you're saying. I don't know exactly how we start cutting state programs that they mandate us to do. But I like the intent.
Well, we can certainly vote against some state programs that they mandate, and we'll end up in court and find out who's going to pay the bill. Because under the state constitution, they have no right to send down state mandated unfunded programs. But they do it all the time, and they've been doing it for decades. But it's against the state constitution.
And that's interesting. I am pretty much on the side of not using taxpayer dollars to sue taxpayers.
Speaking of scapegoating, I think that if we move positively and productively, as expediently as possible, and it will be beneficial to everyone. And
I'd like to
it's
point
going to be
out,
painful to everyone, too.
a lot of our employees are concerned for their jobs. One of the things we're doing right now is all vacancies. We right now have 67 vacancies. We're not filling them, so what we're trying to do is allow this to attrition. As a vacancy comes, we're not replacing it, because we want it to be as, we want to be as fair as we can. We're starting to make measures right now, and of the 67 vacancies, only 10 are posted that we have. The others we're planning remaining vacant, so that we can utilize. That's where we're going to look first and try and do it in that manner. And we're going to try and make everything work and we're all in it together. I will say that I don't want to say I hate to say the public, we're going to try and cut services, and we're going to try and make it as painless as possible, yet get the job done. And that's our goal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, very good, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be looking forward to all your innovative ideas. Our next item is special districts and boards. Approval of minutes, meeting January 8th, 2008, Emergency Services District.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0 now. Approval of minutes, meeting January 15th, 2008.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. And Emergency Services Station 2, deductive change, order number 4, memorandum dated February 5, 2008, 214 to 217.
Move approval.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Special districts and boards, Emergency Services District, approval of purchase 1 Chevrolet Type 3 medium-duty ambulance from 10A Fire Equipment, Inc., memorandum dated February 5th, 2008, pages 218 to 240.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
Any discussion? I have to see someone from the audience. Yes, if you'd come forward. Name and address, please, for the record.
Bob Johnson, Corwin Subdivision. It looks like this could be a good start.
Yes.
On reducing costs for the county. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Johnson.
Question either for Brian or John, if this is a replacement, if it's to fill a new need, or can we squeeze another year out of an older ambulance? Or Brian, what kind of options do we have?
Morning, Brian Burkeen, Assistant Chief Fire Rescue. What this is a replacement ambulance for one of the older, outdated vehicles. Last year in the budget, we came forward in the budget, asked for $170,000 to replace a new ambulance, and we've cut the cost down to $144,000. So we've done some due diligence here with Jason's input to go ahead and try to save some dollars. So, but that's where we're at. This is a replacement of a well-used vehicle.
Brian, would you say this is critical to public safety? I mean, is the old ambulance not working? Is it not running? Is it?
You're looking at ambulances right now that are on the road that have probably 5-6 years of emergency response life on them. They're well worn out, and it is of dire need. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian.
And see other business. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.